Hello and welcome to variation 23. This variation combines bowings on the string with bowings off the string, and it also combines different speeds of bow. So we have a lot of different combinations here. That's why a good idea to practice that is to take them apart, practice them separately, and practice them on just one note so that you can concentrate 100% on what your bow is doing and don't need to worry about the left hand. A good way to start off is like this. You're doing the same rhythm as in the variation and also the same bowing, but you're just playing one note. Now I'll take that apart a little bit. You start with the down bow, which is the whole bow. Make sure you go into that with a good swinging movement of the whole arm. You practice that a couple of times. That's a good idea to practice that a few times. Now when you go on, you have basically a slurred note, which we'll now play as one note, and you lift the bow about when you reach the middle of the bow. Bring it back down and bring it back down again, and then come down again for the down bow. Lift. Basically, that is not a very difficult bowing because you're on an up bow and you're traveling more or less at the same speed of bow. Now the last part of this variation, you have the same bowing, but it's piano and you're supposed to do it in the middle of the bow. Now, what's meant with that is not that you're supposed to do it in one spot. Obviously, that's not possible, but you're supposed to do it in the area of the middle between about here and about here. I personally like using a little bit more bow because that's a sound which carries. Probably because I play so much with piano and I'm never loud enough. But anyway, you play that in the middle from about here and do the same bowing. Basically, you make a piano by using less bow. So practice that as well. And then practice them next to each other. And now piano. Now forte. And piano again. Okay. Now the next bowing is this one. Now we have a very high speed of bow. Practice that also on one note because that's not that easy. You have a high speed of bow. So you have a high speed of bow for the down bow. Important if you're traveling at a high speed of bow is that you need good contact to the string and you have to pull a straight bow. Those two things are very important. So that needs to be practiced. You need quite a lot of weight as from the middle because the bow is light in the upper half and you don't want it to do something. So a very good exercise to practice traveling with a high speed of bow and also to practice a straight bow is to put the bow on the string at the down bow and then travel in the air as fast as you can to the tip. And then travel back down again as fast as you can. Imagine the bow is like an arrow and goes completely straight all the way to the tip. That's a very good exercise to practice. So you have the down bow with the high speed of bow, and then you have the dotted rhythm. It's a good idea to do them with a little bit of a martelé ansatz so that the sound is good and you catch the string. So you have catch the string, that means pressing the stick down, and as soon as you start playing, release. which is important. The 16th note and the following 8th note, imagine that as being one action. You need quite a lot of weight up here at the tip. So you have, and now one action. Because if you think of it as two actions, that will take too much time. Practice that with taking more time before the 16th note. Take time, catch the string, and think of it as one action. One action, not two actions, but one action. Give yourself time to prepare, catch the string. So practice that until that feels secure. And remember, you're also traveling back at a high speed. So it's a good idea to actually look at the bow hairs on the string, because there is actually the danger, if you don't look, that your frog gets caught on the string. And you can actually, if you're at such a high speed, you can actually pull down your whole bridge. So I would not recommend that. If you're traveling at such a high speed through the air, look at the bow hairs on the string. Now, when you've prepared these bowings by practicing them on one note and you start practicing it on the variation, the important thing is to be completely clear about your bow division. Remember, a good bow technique stands and falls with intelligent bow division, because that way you're doing the same figure at the same place every time, and that will make you feel a lot more secure. If you don't divide your bow exactly, then you might wind up doing something here and something here the next time, and the next time it's about there, and you'll never really get any security into it. So pay a lot of attention to the bow division. Because this variation has so many different things, I think what I'll do is I'll just walk you through it with the bow division and mention the things you have to watch out as we go along. So you start off with the whole bow. So you have the whole bow and the down bow. Lift the bow approximately at the middle, maybe slightly above the middle. Not below the middle, because you won't have enough space down here for the notes which follow. Lift, keep traveling at the same speed of bow, and then bring it back down again. So you have basically more or less the same speed of bow on the whole up bow, because you're traveling through the air. Do not stop the bow when you're in the air. You don't want... that won't sound. Don't lift the bow very high, because you want those eighth notes to sound smooth. If you lift the bow too high, what will happen is that you will come down from too far away. That doesn't sound very good. Remember, when you lift the bow, to curl your fingers and bend your thumb. Because this is such a typical thing for classical music, use a little more bow for the E than you need for the F, so that the E is louder and you have a decrescendo. You get a natural decrescendo that way. Same thing here. Now, when you get to the next bit, you've practiced the dotted rhythms on single notes. Now it's time to do them in the variation. Give yourself plenty of space for the eighth notes where you lift the bow in between, because remember, you have air traveling time. So you have... Lift the bow before you hit the middle. Come down, high speed of bow. Remember one action from the 16th note to the following 8th note. And now, remember you have one more to put on the bow. There's one more. You need to know that before you start the up bow, that you have one more 8th note to put onto the bow, because you don't want to run out of bow when you're down here. What follows now is a rather fast change of bow. You have this. The thing is, you have basically 2 down bows after each other, and there's no rest in between to change your bow. So you actually need to move quite fast. Remember, what follows is in the middle and not starting down here. So you have. It helps to tilt the bow slightly to the fingerboard for that G, for the second down bow, to stop the bow from bouncing, and make sure you have a flowing movement with your arm. You don't want. First of all, you'll be late, and secondly, you won't be able to integrate it into your full right arm moving. You have to practice that a couple of times. I spent quite a lot of time doing. Try to imagine your whole body doing that movement, not just the arm. If you isolate the movement, it will be jerky, and that's the last thing you want. But try to do it with the whole body. Not a huge movement, because that will make it difficult for the bow to hit the string accurately. But think about it as a whole thing, and also think about it as something that the B is actually leading to the G, even if you're changing bow. Now when you do this piano, you need a bit more bow control, because you're not down at the frog where the bow is easy to control, but you're in the middle between here and here, and you use a lot less bow, so you have a less high speed of bow. The bow is traveling slower, and that's how you do the piano. Here too, you need to be clear about your bow division, so that you use the same amount of bow on the down bow and on the up bow, because otherwise you'll be traveling somewhere. If you use more bow on the up bow, you'll be traveling to the frog. If you use more bow on the down bow, you'll be traveling to the tip. And sooner or later you'll run into problems if that happens. So be quite clear about how you divide the bow. When you start off doing this, definitely look at the hairs on the string, look at your bow, so that you can see where you are. Same thing here, the E gets more bow than the F, but all within this middle range that you are playing this part. Here too, the D gets more bow than the E flat. One more thing I would like to mention at the end, it belongs to the things which are very difficult to explain, because it's about feeling something. This variation is a good one because you're using a lot of bow in it. To get used to it, to actually think about the bow leading the left hand fingers. That sounds a bit strange, particularly since I keep on stressing that the left-hand fingers have to be there before the bow can play, which obviously is correct. If your left-hand finger is not in place, it doesn't matter what your bow does, you won't get the right note. But when you're playing, especially when you're playing this variation in tempo, try to get a feel for the fact that in the end, bottom line, actually the bow leads the fingers. That has to do with the fact that it is the bow which makes the sound on the violin. And basically, you're leading musically through the bow. That's why the bow leads the fingers of the left hand. I don't know if you can use this information in any way, because this is really very, very difficult to explain. But I just wanted to mention it in the end. Perhaps you can do something with that information, because it makes a great difference if you actually play the violin and have the bow lead what's happening. Hope you enjoyed this, and see you next time. Bye.